demanded by this honorable commission. All those having business draw near. Give your attendance. God save this state and honorable commission. Remain standing for prayer and pledge of allegiance to the flag.
We'll now have a moment of silent reflection. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated and remain quiet.
We'll now have roll call from Madam Secretary.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Alexis Parker,
Here.
Brianna Polite, Jayla Diggs,
Excused.
Lamar Ballard,
Excused.
Nia Dawson,
Here.
Lydia P., Brianna Adams, Jabria Barnwell, Winter Benyard, Emily Bermudez, Justice Bosco, Carlton Brown, Hollis Brown, Marcus Brown, Shakira Bush, Asia Coles,
Excused.
Kristen Conley, Xavier Cooper, James Flowers,
Excused.
Gabrielle Gardner, Victor Gonzalez, Jeremiah Gordon, Jared Grant, Michael Green, Simone Green, Claire Hammond,
Excused.
Calvin Harrison, Chris Howard, Kentrell Johnson, Sabria Jones, Amanda King, Greg Mortimer, Deontay Samuels, Kayla Smokes, Tyler Washington, Tahira Williams. Thank you.
We'll now have a recap of the meeting on January 11th with Flowers and Samuels.
Can we postpone it to the next meeting, please?
Now we will have homelessness in Savannah from Mr. Marvin Harry.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and present to you today at your meeting. We are pleased that Alderman Johnson made this opportunity available to us because we think it's so important to reach out to all areas of our community on the issue of homelessness. And we're finding more and more youth getting engaged in homeless issues and understanding homelessness. So it's a special honor to be able to be here and start you on, hopefully, your journey of learning more about homelessness. This presentation is a follow-up to an event that we had. I'm an advocate for homelessness, and I've been working in the arena of homelessness since at least August of 2010. And we've gotten to this point in the trek to try to make a difference in homelessness here in Savannah and how it's handled and how it's dealt with. We've gotten to a point of trying to organize various facets of the community. And one that we targeted first is the area of the interfaith groups in Savannah, the faith groups, to come together and figure out and talk about how they can do more. So last Thursday night, we were able to put together an event that's represented here on this brochure, this flyer. It was very successful. We had over 100 people there who are already working in some facet of homelessness, but wanted to come together and understand what they might be able to do more than that. What this whole advocacy and effort is geared towards is helping us as a community, and in this example of a man walking down the street ignoring or not seeing a homeless person in need. We want to try to switch that. We want to try to switch that perspective and get people more aware of homelessness from a multitude of perspectives, not just the fact that they are the chronic homeless that you might see sitting on a park bench or lying down trying to rest during the day. or at night. So this is the agenda from the previous session. So we're not going to cover everything in this, but I wanted you to see the nature of how we brought people together and what we tried to do with them and accomplish with them, and we think we're on that path. We did have represented Mayor Pro Tem Van Johnson, who spurred the group along. In fact, he's quoted in some articles that I'll reference in a few minutes about that experience. But we were able to get at least two people from the city. The captain of the downtown precinct was there with us, as well as Susan Broker, who's a liaison between the city and the residents and the tourists, and the people that our tourists and our residents see on a daily basis. She works hard in that area on a daily basis, and she's also been quoted in some recent articles. And we've also engaged the city, so we're reaching out in a broad perspective to engage the community. But to point out, one of the main groups of people that we had some brand new faith community people there, but we also had people that participate regularly in what are called street ministries. Those are efforts to be out with our people that are homeless and provide them some basic needs, as well as provide them some spiritual guidance and some opportunities for reflection on the faith that we have that causes us to be out there to work with them. It is important for us to start the discussion with understanding what is homelessness, and we have some resources that we'll share with you and make available to you as links later, possibly with a copy of this presentation or not in other ways. But and the community that's watching this will be able to. We would like for you to connect with us as well if you have an interest in learning more, and we'll tell you how to do that a little bit later. We're going to talk about my background, how I got here. We reviewed 2 documentaries as a part of this presentation. We might play one of them as a trailer for a 4-minute video to let you watch that real quickly. We had from an organization called Hear Us, which is a lady who for 8 years now, she used to run a homeless shelter up in Illinois, but for 8 years now she's been riding around the country in a motorhome chronicling particularly women's and children's homelessness, because that's an issue that's dear to her and one that we know in Savannah is very underserved. So she put together some documentaries that we shared with the audience then, and we hope to be able to share them with you as well. We also engaged with the Georgia Alliance to End Homelessness, because there are organizations that try to help us as a state and us as a nation come together to talk about homelessness and do something about it. We also focused a discussion on what the faith community is currently doing, because the faith community is currently doing an awful lot to serve the needs of the homeless in many, many faceted ways. So we're not trying to imply that they're not, but in forming and attempting to form this thing called an Interfaith Taskforce on Ending Homelessness, where we're asking people to come together to meet others who are working, to understand what we are doing, and then to hopefully open up the dialogue about what we could be doing, what we should be doing, and what we need to be doing. So that's the purpose of bringing this kind of an organization together. We also did present a vision to this group, and it's one, in other words, we weren't trying to just rally the troops and get the compassion in people's hearts worked up. We wanted to be able to bring to them something to look forward to be a part of, and hopefully making come to fruition. So we're going to share that vision with you very quickly. And we also, at that point, opened up the discussion to the room to let them meet each other and talk more. Hopefully we'll have a chance for you to ask me some questions later, because I hope you will have some questions for me. So when we look at what is homelessness, it's a multifaceted issue. Some of you might already have a perspective, but many of us just think of homelessness as the people that we see in our parks and squares, or that we think about living under the bridges that aren't housed. That is not all there is to homelessness by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, there's a one-page brochure document that I will share with you all as well, that lets you look at all the people who experience homelessness in our community and also all over the nation. So we'll make that available to you as part of it came out of a book that this lady Diane Nyland with Hear Us wrote. And in fact, if you go to her website, hearus.us, you will be able to access her her materials on understanding homelessness in more detail and have access yourselves to the trailers for these documentaries that she's produced. We have a whole list of resources. I don't know if any of you noticed and you watched 60 Minutes, but last year, and as a follow-up also, they had segments on homelessness down in Central Florida and about kids with their families, with their mothers or their fathers, living in vehicles and trying to make it and go to school, continue their schooling. Very important issue. And in fact, with that visibility, the issue got addressed in Central Florida with a lot of people coming to the table to help. The trailer that we have to share with you today is one of, again, those documentaries. It's called Littlest Nomads, and it lets children, she talks to children and lets them share what being homeless and what an education means to them. Let's see if we can get it rolling for just a quick second, since it's only 4 minutes.
My mom told me, she's like, well, I can't afford this house no more. Your grandma's not paying nothing, and I don't have the money for it, and I'm not working right now since I just had a baby, so it's hard and like that. And then she's like, we might have to go to a homeless shelter, and I didn't want to go. But then like 2 weeks after, we had to move out.
I don't know, we're losing our house, and I'm like, why? And she said, I can't explain it to you right now. I can explain it to you when you get more grown up. And it's kind of heartbreaking because you live there a long time, and it's kind of hard. You're not going to know nobody there. It's kind of scary.
I don't like living in it because it's not that fun living in a church.
I don't like it here. It's just not cozy over here. There's too much strangers.
We lived in a motel, and we didn't get no breakfast or nothing.
And if you're upset, you can't take your emotions out on yourself. You got everyone surrounding you, it feels like. And it's better to have your own for a while.
It's hard for kids to go from one school to the next, one school to the next, one school to the next. Because they have to make new friends. They have to get adjusted to the school. And then after if they get adjusted and everything, they make new friends, then they have to move again.
School means to me, well, it's basically like a home.
I mean, when it was your new school, you're new there and brand new, and then you're scared and afraid to be new, and then you don't know no teachers' names, and then it wasn't last year, nobody's gonna know you yet.
I have to make new friends.
When I tell someone it hurts, and I feel sad, and I feel mad about it because I don't want nobody to hear my feedback. And and I feel bad about it. It breaks my heart.
Oh my God, they're homeless. I better treat them really nice and stuff. And they act like it's a disease that they'll catch. When we're no different from them. We're all human. The only thing is that they have a home that they can call their own and we don't.
So hopefully if you have some questions later about that and about what it means to some of those kids, we can talk about it. But I want you to realize that not that we need to try to call them out or find them, but there are probably kids in school with you right now who are homeless, who are living under some of those same circumstances. Those were mostly younger children, but there probably are some your age living in a motel or living in a car. We even think that there's some at Savannah State or Armstrong or Georgia Tech or wherever. So it's an underserved population, a need that's out there. Again, there's a one-page flyer that we'll make available to you that will help you understand the multifaceted nature of homelessness, as well as the link to the page that I showed you that has other resources about understanding homelessness. A little bit about my background. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it other than to say, because it's been written about and there's been some interviews online and on the TV, so I can provide you the links to those. Most recently, Saturday, there was an interview by Jan Scutch in the Morning News, and last Thursday night there was an interview that got aired during our event on the Coastal Sourced website. But to net it out for you, I have been homeless, and I have been touched by it, needless to say, and also more so touched by the people that I work with on a daily basis as a volunteer in street ministries and also with the contacts I have around the city. I never experienced it as bad as some of the people that you hear about and read about, but I see when I work with them, I see the devastation in their faces and their eyes. I see that they've lost hope. And that's a terrible thing to lose. Hope is a terrible thing to lose. And we try to work with people to give them hope. And some of the projects that we're trying to work on, we try to work from multiple perspectives. One is with the people who are experiencing homelessness, and the other is with the community and the people who are providing services today, but also with a look forward to what we could be doing beyond what we're doing today. There's models for working with homeless people that we're not engaged with in this community, particularly one called Housing First, and we see that as a need, and we're trying to fulfill that need. So this engaging the faith community is not something that we alone dreamed up. Other places in Georgia and other places all over the country are doing it in various different ways. But we had with us the other night a lady who runs the Georgia Alliance to End Homelessness. She and I have known each other for a while because I was blessed to be able to actually go back in 2011 to the National Alliance to End Homelessness conference, where I started to learn a lot and meet a lot of people who were doing other things. But interestingly enough, I also got to go lobby on Capitol Hill, and I got to go with a group of people who do that more so than me. But I got to go with those people and actually talk to staff in some congressman's office. And interestingly enough, I was told at the end of the meeting, and all the group of us were told, and I'll quote in generalities here, we're looking for the faith community to stand up and do more. Now, if the federal government and the people that represent us in Congress are telling us that that's what they expect out of us, that says a lot, first of all. And it's a good thing, actually, because, in fact, we can do a lot more. But it challenges us as a community also to come together, because we realize from that statement alone that the federal government isn't going to end homelessness by themselves. And, in fact, back in 2010 when I started this advocacy, and I made some statements publicly, and you could find them on WSCV's website if you went looking. I had an interview where I formally said, even back in 2010, It is not just the job of the federal, state, or local governments, or the service providers or existing people who are working on homelessness, the nonprofits. It's the job of all of us. And I came at that from a faith perspective as well as a community perspective. So hopefully we'll be able to share more with that later. So we'll also provide access to her website because she has a lot of resources on that website. But Catherine Preston also has stepped up to the plate and developed a plan for Georgia. I don't know if you heard about this, but back in 2009 there was a study done, national study, that ranked states on their capacity, effectiveness, desire, abilities to address women's and children's homelessness. Georgia was ranked 49 out of 50. So Ms. Preston and the group out of Atlanta went on a mission to develop a plan to move Georgia up in those standings. So not only is the problem there, but we're not doing a good job of it. So that even got me more engaged when I saw that report come out. One of our favorite mottos that we come at, thanks to actually Savannah Christian, is a motto that they're working on this year called "Choose Compassion, See What Happens." It is about compassion, but more importantly, it's about action, and it's the action that our faith calls us to, because that's what is expected of us in our faith traditions. There's even scripture that talks about this concept. So what is the faith community doing? There are a lot of faith-based service providers already, but ones that we highlighted on the night of the presentation that I'll highlight here for you as well. There's an organization and an entity called Savannah Baptist Center down at the end of Liberty Street where it turns into Wheaton. They are very focused on homelessness and on a church, having a church for the homeless, a formal church building that the homeless can come into and they can serve their needs. But another organization has partnered with them. It's called HUGS, Heads Up Guidance Services. This is a lady who's had a passion for a couple of years now and is moving very, very rapidly and very progressively towards creating a day center for the homeless. Right now, when the homeless leave the shelters, they have nowhere to go. They're pushed out of the shelters at 6 or whatever in the morning, and they can't come back till 4:30 or so. And sometimes they come back not knowing if they're going to have a bed, because it's a daily thing for the ones who live in the shelters. Well, the HUGS organization saw that as a need in Savannah. Right now, the homeless can go to the library, or you can see them sitting in the parks or squares or doing various things around the city, but usually it's not as productive as it could be. So these two organizations partnered and are in the process of building out in an area that used to be the old Family Dollar building. That's part of that whole landscape over there. They're building out a counseling center in the major part of it, and in the back part of it, Savannah Baptist Center is building out what's called an oasis, which is another opportunity for the homeless to come out of the tent cities and off the streets. Excuse me. To do showers, locker, and laundry. The opportunity of connecting those two says that our homeless people who are experiencing it that way can get those things taken care of, showers, lockers, and laundry, and have the opportunity to come right in the building right next to them and receive counseling and guidance and job vocation services and access to computers for job search or resumes or learning how to do a new skill or whatever. So that's a very effective program that we're looking forward to being launched in the middle of March at least, if not earlier. Excuse me. But the Baptist Center also is already experiencing the value of multiple faiths coming to the table to serve with them, because other churches and other denominations engage with them to come serve the homeless at various times through their facilities. And in fact, here's an image of the Oasis facility that's pretty close to being launched. So it's a pretty nice, and they put a lot into making this what it is. So the next thing we try to get people to understand is that there's a reason why we're here today. How do we get here today? How do we get to the point finally of the community possibly addressing homelessness themselves? Well, we've seen much in the press about the disarray at the Homeless Authority, and we're sorry to see that, but this opens up the opportunity for us as a community to come together and say, how can we help the Homeless Authority do things that they are not able to do? Because, as I said earlier, the federal government, state governments are not alone, and that's basically what the Homeless Authority deals with. They're not alone going to be able to end homelessness. Again, I started this in 2010. I have a blog, I have social media access, and we just started off trying to raise awareness here in town. But we also were quickly brought to the street ministry part of the situation. It was led there on purpose. And I was connected to multiple street ministries on purpose. It was not by coincidence that I connected with various street ministries. There was a reason that God put me into each of those, and to play possibly a broader role in looking across those street ministries to what we're all doing. That's how kind of we got here today, is that by working with the individual street ministries, I could see synergy and consistency and the need also to bring them together. Just a quick little brief part about why is this envisioned to be an interfaith opportunity. The reason is that Christians are not the only ones who are called to be of service to their people. We want to bring the broadest coalition together that we can, including other faiths. We've reached out to the Jewish community, as well as we will reach out to the Muslim community, faith community, and any others that have a heart for serving the homeless and serving their fellow man. We want to provide an opportunity for that. So we don't look at being restrictive in any way in providing these faith organizations the opportunity to live out their mission and their faith. We also look at it as an opportunity to leverage all of these faith communities together to do more, because we all have much in common, as I kind of implied, with our desire to serve. But when we come together, we can do much more, and that's the goal. We have some real solutions that we want to talk about in a few minutes that we've envisioned, and they're really pretty far down the pike, but we want people to come together with us to help us mold that, to help us make it into what it could be or should be. We want to pull together stakeholders in the faith community to look at these solutions that we are putting together or want to put together. So real quickly, Housing First. Housing First is a model that our service providers have already said that they can't support. Basically, to us, it's a national model. It's not something that we just dreamed up. But however, Housing First, when you use those two words together, they have different meanings to different people, because different people have implemented them differently in their communities. So it's a broad label, and we don't like labels. However, we have put it out there because it also gives us the opportunity to have dialogue about what we mean and what it should be for our community. There is, in fact, a national campaign called 100,000 Homes that engages with different communities to bring together their Housing First solutions. They don't come in with a solution already pre-baked and ready to plug in, but they engage with the community in helping find out what works in that community relative to providing housing. And you can imagine, because you like to go home and sleep in a warm bed every night, that housing is pretty basic need. It's a pretty basic human need. And that's how we look at it too. We see that people who are given the opportunity to have housing will address their reasons, more likely than not, address their reasons for being homeless, because they were, in our case, shown the love enough to want to work with them to address their needs and address their issues. So that's the approach that we look for. And it's also about, everybody thinks about a typical homeless person having addiction issues. And if you've if you by chance had addictions in your family and you understand what that means, you probably realize that somebody doesn't just go from being addicted to being sober or being not addicted just like that in a snap of a finger. In fact, there are potentially relapse processes that go on. We believe that it's a recovery process, not sobriety doesn't have to be the demanded behavior. It's a preferred behavior, but we don't demand it. So that's what we're trying to bring to the community. And to us, that's also a faith perspective-based approach, because in getting people to address their issues, it's not only about housing, it's about the supportive services that are wrapped around that housing and the characteristics of those services. It's not just a 28-day recovery program that gets somebody magically cured. It's an ongoing recovery process that you're willing to let somebody relapse, because that brings the opportunity for more serious discussion about their situation and more serious counseling, more serious engagement on the issue of that relapse. So that's what we're trying to do. One of our other bigger motives, so to speak, in developing an interfaith task force is also to give the faith community a voice and a place at the table to talk about how homelessness should be addressed in our community. We think that's very important. We also envision reaching out to other stakeholders in the community. The tourism sector, which we've already engaged with and very positively, the Chamber, the United Way, and other organizations in the city that have a stake in homelessness being addressed. Now, this is the point where we tell you where we're at with our vision. We have actually brought together a loose coalition of 3 partners who are ready to address producing a housing first solution. That means we've gotten to the point of a partner that actually can provide the services. We've got a partner who can actually make our housing solution come to be, and me, who's just a passionate one. Not that the other 2 aren't passionate. Excuse me, I'm having a cold come back. We have actually gotten to the point of having in our vision 2 pieces of land in Savannah ready to do some housing. We have seen as a model most recently a project out in Marin County, California, which is one of the richest communities in California and in our nation to some degree, where they have actually taken a plot of land that's been given to them and gone so far as to lay out a specific site plan and design for some housing that will support up to 14 families. So that model, we might have time to run through some of those images so that you get a flavor. But the other aspect of what we're doing, we actually have a desire to create jobs for the homeless people that we're trying to house, as well as others in the community. We will be using, we believe, shipping containers as a building material, nothing more than a building material, to put together our housing. If you do some research on container housing on the internet, you will see lots of beautiful looking housing that's already been done. When we produce our housing, it will not look like it was ever containers. You will not know that it had been shipping containers at one point in time. So that we want to bring that confidence factor to the community and to you, because we know what it looks like to see a shipping container sitting on a piece of property. We know what that looks like, a raw shipping container, if you will. But we envision using them. But the most important aspect of this is the creating jobs and also the potential to create a local industry here in Savannah that exports this housing to the rest of the United States. So consider that as somewhere where we're heading as well. Most importantly, I think as I mentioned earlier, it's about hope. And a homeless person walking down the street shouldn't have to get their hope by seeing some graffiti on a wall somewhere. They should be able to get their hope in a realistic sense from people who care and love for them and can help them. That's what we're about. So let's run real quickly through the prototypes of what the housing could look like. There's an architect's diagram of what that community that I talked about in Marin County, California would look like for 14 homeless families, with open areas for meeting and congregating and talking and working. There's another view of the site plan. And the neat thing about this housing is that it can be made green, it can be made efficient, it can be made very modern. Okey-doke. Well, that's what I wanted to share with you today. I hope it's been beneficial. Hope it's been useful. We do have Facebook pages and a Facebook group. If you look under Facebook for Savannah Area Interfaith Taskforce on Ending Homelessness, a long name, but you'll find our page pretty quickly. We also have a page for Housing for Savannah. So we encourage people to connect with us there and let us know of your interests, your issues, your concerns, your desires for partnering and working with us in that area. And we hope to have, if we are able to pull together some youth into a group, we hope that you can come work with those youth and mentor them. That would be an opportunity for you, I think. So at the end of the day, we have to believe there's good and be the good. Okay? Thanks. If there are any questions, we'd love to entertain them and get you understanding.
Let's start with a definition of homelessness. What is the definition?
There is a formal definition of homelessness from HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And some of that is talked about in that brochure. But it's basically living in a shelter, living on the streets, living in your car, and to some degree even couch surfing is considered homeless. In fact, this week there will be what's called a yearly point-in-time count in every community in the country. I don't know exactly when Savannah's is, but this is an attempt to actually get, and it's really, some of us who work in this area don't like the approach because it says we can effectively count one day of the year, get a count of who's homeless. And the issue is that, of course, there's more coming in and out of homelessness during a year, but also if we base our funding solely on a U.S.-based counting process, because all these numbers get reported back to HUD, and in fact, that's how they decide how much Savannah gets. It's based on our count. So first of all, if the count's not accurate, and second of all, if it's missing underserved populations, like there is no count done for people that are living in motels. No count. That's considered homeless because you're not. If our general look at it is, if you signed a lease under your name and you're responsible for paying for rent, then you're not homeless. Okay? Does that help?
Thank you.
Okay.
There's a question over there.
Go ahead.
Stand up.
Yes, sir. Is it complicated what? Working with the homeless? It can be if you're first time at it. I get emails and calls from people wanting to be volunteers all the time, and we try to fit them into where they can best serve. But for somebody to say, either I want to volunteer, figuring out where they could plug in and how they would be most effective. It's everything from serving a plate in a line on a street ministry to walking that line and developing relationships with people so that you can help them. So it depends on what you want to experience. But if you're asking from my experience, whether it's complicated, to me it's not. First of all, because I've been there, and second of all, because of my experience with working with people. Once you show compassion, you're consistently there, they see that you have their best interests at heart, that you're not, and I'll just say it this way, that you're not just trying to make yourself feel better for being there, then they respond and they work with you, and then you can have dialogues that are productive in helping people. But thanks for asking. That's important. Yeah.
What kind of approaches or resources are being applied to giving some sort of whether it be like a high school diploma education to someone who's homeless, or a further degree in preparation for jobs that will be available?
That's a good question. And it will surprise you for me to tell you that, in fact, not all the homeless need a GED.
Mm-hmm.
There are some, actually, that have PhDs or masters. Can you believe that? And some very intelligent people. It's just that their experience in life has gotten them there. It's it's viewed as a circumstance. And one of the best things that I like about how Savannah's approaching this is a very simple statement that Captain Mike Wilkins made in an interview in the paper. It's about behavior. It is not about circumstance, which means not that we don't care how you got there or why you're there. We do care, but that's not going to influence how we deal with you from a police perspective or in a community, from a community perspective. If people are misbehaving in a street ministry, they're probably called out and worked with from their own peers also, because they realize that that's not productive. So as far as resources for job training, there are some programs already in existence that do job training, that help people with GEDs, that help people build resumes, and that do job searches. There's a very effective resource even at the public library on Bull Street, a program that they put together to help people work through all that. But the challenge is that it's also motivation. We have to motivate the people to want to do that, want to move forward, and to believe that they can. Because very often, once somebody gets so homeless, I'll just say it that way, so homeless, they have lost hope, they have lost confidence, and they believe that if they try again, they'll fail. And failure is not good, right? Because it could cause a relapse, or it could cause you to go right back. It could cause you to regress from where you are. So that's another way that people deal with their homelessness, is realizing that they're stuck there, or believing that they're stuck there. Does that help?
I have a question for you. How did you personally make that transition in your life from homelessness and wanting to get help to where you are now?
Good question. I told this in the interview. I'm not sure whether it aired or not, one of them. I was able, I think I already mentioned that I never experienced homelessness the way other people have, or that you traditionally believe other people are experiencing it. I was able to go directly from a weekly hotel that I realized I was not going to be able to keep into a shelter, because I knew that was a path that would work I felt like that was a path that would work for me. And then while I was in the shelter, shelters are traditionally 90-day programs, and then you figure out what your housing opportunities are after that. But as a part of the shelter experience I had, we actually had a weekly Bible study that was not delivered by the shelter, but it was supported and allowed in the shelter, which is an important distinction. But that experience got me back focused on my faith. It got me to the point of recognizing that it wasn't just about me. Not that I actually thought it was about me, but it got me focused on helping other people also. Anything else? Yes, sir.
For the building, is that going to take place after the count?
You mean our project? Where we are with the project, we are not funded yet at all. We don't have any committed resources to do any of the vision that we laid out. So we are seeking partners, and we're seeking opportunities to make that happen. So our housing that we anticipate building, first of all, it's going to be community-oriented, meaning people that are experiencing homelessness the same way, like families or chronic homeless or women with children or youth even. So we seek to find partners who are focused on those specific populations that, or in their heart, that they want to serve, to become a part of individual projects that will develop housing. Thank you.
Are runaways considered homeless?
Yes, they are. There is unaccompanied youth is what the system, so to speak, calls them. However, there are shelters here for runaway youth. That is something that's been very helpful in Savannah. There's also a certain age range that cannot go in shelters, even with their mothers. So there are those kinds of systemic issues that cause people to stay on the streets or in motels because they can't get into shelters. They don't want to separate the family. Okay, so if by chance they do separate, then those youth become unaccompanied or run away, and then they are. There's probably less services for that than we need. But there's also youth that come that travel throughout the country, and they come through here. And I can't tell you the number of people that I've met who come up to me and they would like for us to help them in a street ministry get a bus ticket home. And if we can verify that that trip home is for a productive reason and something actually is waiting for them there that will be good for them, then we potentially will help. But those people, we ask them to come see us, work with us. And we have several cases that people have said, we like Savannah so much we're going to stay. And now they're working on finding a job and finding productive ways to live in Savannah with us.
Is that for the large members of, and I've seen some lately, kind of the grunge look with the dog, and they're just kind of hanging out. And it don't really seem like they want to have a home. It seems like they actually like their lifestyle of kind of.
Yeah, that there is a group of.
I forgot what they call it, dog people or something.
That's one term. It's the old, what we older people would call the hobos, the people that would train hop and go from town to town.
But they're young. They're young.
Yeah, they're young. And in fact, I've seen stories about somebody seeing one of them go into a store with a credit card. So that brings up there's lots of complexity to this. It's not black and white, if you will. It's some of them have trust funds, but they don't want to live at home under the rules. So they're traveling. So we have all those to deal with. And again, those people, if I call them those people, if we encounter them in our street ministries, and they in fact do come and join with us, we're non-judgmental, because that's not what we're called to be. We're not called to be judgmental. We will serve and give food and give basic needs, try to fulfill basic human needs. But the other aspect of that is there are other communities in the country that look at traditional blinders on street ministries as enabling homeless people to remain homeless or to remain comfortable homeless. I can't imagine anybody being comfortable homeless, but at any rate, if that's all that happens, then possibly that is enabling. But I've found all of our street ministries to be compassionate to the extent of worried about the needs, worried about people's lives, and worried about helping them move beyond where they are, and working to do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let's give another round of applause for Mr. Heary. Please stand. As we come to our ending of our meeting, let's repeat our affirmation statement and our core values. What are our core values? Respect, success, influence, integrity, and leadership. As Chatham County Youth Commissioners, we shall excel in our school, community, and government, be responsible and respectful of adults, make a difference in our community, reach our full potential, and be strong student leaders by providing safe and inviting opportunities for youth. This concludes our 2013 meeting.